President Biden continues to push Congress to pass more gun control laws and says Second Amendment is not absolute. It's very clear President Biden and the Democratic Party are doing everything they possibly can to use these, now don't get me wrong, extremely tragic events that none of us wish to ever see happen again to crack down on the rights of gun owners.
For so many of you at home, I want to be very clear. This is not about taking away anyone's guns. It's not about vilifying gun owners. In fact, we believe we should be treating responsible gun owners as an example of how every gun owner should behave. I respect the culture and the tradition and the concerns of lawful gun owners. At the same time, the Second Amendment, like all other rights, is not absolute. It was Justice Scalia who wrote, and I quote, "Like most rights, the rights granted by the Second Amendment are not unlimited." Not unlimited. It never has been. There have always been limitations on what weapons you can own in America. For example, machine guns have been federally regulated for nearly 90 years, and this is still a free country. This isn't about taking away anyone's rights. It's about protecting children. It's about protecting families. It's about protecting whole communities. It's about protecting our freedoms to go to school, to a grocery store, to a church, without being shot and killed. According to new data just released by the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, guns are the #1 killer of children in the United States of America. The #1 killer. More than car accidents, more than cancer. Over the last 2 decades, more school-age children have died from guns than on-duty police officers and active-duty military combined. Think about that. More kids than on-duty cops killed by guns. More kids than soldiers killed by guns. For God's sake, how much more carnage are we willing to accept?
Tom Bevan tweeted, "Obviously, Uvalde was a tragedy, and now 4 people were killed by a gunman in Tulsa, and it's national news. But why isn't Chicago national news? On Wednesday, 2 shot dead, 5 more wounded, including a cop. On Tuesday, 11 people shot, 2 fatally. Then, over Memorial Day weekend, 51 shot and 9 were killed." Waldo McMuscles gives us the answer we're all thinking, because it's proof that gun laws don't work. Chicago and the other violent cities have some of the strictest gun laws in the country, yet gun violence is rampant. Ah, yes, put a ban on something, whether it be drugs, guns, or anything else, and of course it'll work, especially with criminals. Because we all know criminals are law-abiding citizens. President Biden should know, with his own son Hunter allegedly lying on Form 4473, according to Arthur Schwartz, to illegally purchase a gun, which is a felony punishable by up to 10 years in prison and a $250,000 fine. If we pull up Mr. Hunter's form, question 11E asks, "Are you an unlawful user of or addicted to marijuana or any depressant, stimulant, narcotic drug, or any other controlled substance?" Biden marks no. We sure don't see any other mainstream coverage of this, just like we don't see a whole lot of coverage of gun violence news in cities where they have some of the strictest gun control laws in the country. It's about the narrative. And if we show the American people that these laws really aren't all that effective, that criminals will still find a way to get guns, perhaps Americans won't be for these Biden crackdowns. Oh, and of course Hunter's girlfriend at the time then proceeded to dump the gun he purchased in the trash next to a school, no less. Then no arrest was ever made or ever will be made, because it's the president's son after all. If it were you and me, the story would be completely different, but these people have special rules that only apply to them. Just like the COVID lockdowns in 2020 and 2021, while people like you and me were forced to mask up and stay indoors, politicians like Gavin Newsom and Barack Obama enjoy their own special privileges. The current sitting US president has his own mask wearing strategy, however, where he'll wear a mask to walk down the airplane steps, several feet away from other people, but then proceed to immediately take it off when he's ready to shake hands and chat it up. Peter Morris comments, "When I was a kid, my dad would intentionally say and do things we knew to be incorrect just to see if we were paying attention. He would get on to us if we didn't catch it. That's not what is happening here." But back to gun control, Democrats are so willing to get this done that Representative Jones, Democrat, is saying that Democrats will abolish the filibuster and pack the Supreme Court in order to pass more restrictions on guns. During a House Judiciary Committee, Jones said, "Enough of you telling us that school shootings are a fact of life when every other country like ours has virtually ended it. Enough of you blaming mental illness and then defunding mental health care in this country. Enough of your thoughts and prayers." Now, I gotta say here that he definitely does have a point with mental health. That is one thing that we need to sort out in this country. The whole healthcare system is a mess in general. Jones also said, quote, "You will not stop us from advancing the Protecting Our Kids Act today. If the filibuster obstructs us, we will abolish it. If the Supreme Court objects, we will expand it. And we will not rest until we have taken weapons of war out of circulation in our communities each and every day." So just a second here, if I can give Democrats one thing, it's that they sure as hell don't give up on ridding the filibuster. I don't know how many times Joe Manchin has told them over and over that he's not okay with getting rid of it because, well, he's actually the only one left that actually values bipartisanship. But yeah, let's keep thinking that we're actually going to get rid of the filibuster somehow when you have Joe Manchin in the Senate. It's just not going to happen. So then from there, we have Representative Jim Jordan calling out the left's lies on gun control, saying that Democrats are always fixated on curtailing the rights of law-abiding citizens, rather than trying to understand why this evil happens. Until we figure out why, of course, we will always mourn losses without actually fixing the problem. Our job is to figure out the why.
No one wants another tragedy. No one wants this to happen again. That's why it's regretful that Democrats have rushed to a markup today in what seems more like political theater than a real attempt at improving public safety or finding solutions. Democrats never once reached out to us to seek our input on the legislation we are considering here today. Protecting children is not a Republican or Democrat issue. The Democrats cobbled together a package of measures. This is not a real attempt, in my judgment, to find solutions. Everyone here knows the reality. Democrats are in control of the House. Anything that you and Speaker Pelosi want to pass, you can pass. And frankly, you've already passed numerous bills related to firearms this Congress. But because those bills are radical attempts to legislate away Second Amendment rights of law-abiding citizens, the Senate has not taken up the legislation, just like it won't take up this bill. What we are doing here is just designed to appeal to Democratic primary voters. The bill won't make our schools safer, it will hamper the rights of law-abiding citizens, and it will do nothing to stop mass shootings. We need to get serious about understanding why this keeps happening. Democrats are always fixated on curtailing the rights of law-abiding citizens rather than trying to understand why this evil happens. Until we figure out the why, we will always mourn losses without fixing the problem. Our job is to figure out the why. The bill that Democrats are putting forward today does not help us to understand what's really driving some young men to commit these heinous acts. The bill before us is short-sighted and not solutions-oriented. It's a one-size-fits-all approach that punishes law-abiding citizens while doing nothing to make our communities safer. We all want to keep children safe in school, but this bill wouldn't do that. This bill is just another Democrat attack on the Second Amendment.
Now, what are the actual solutions to the mass shooting problem that we have in this country? Well, the first thing I would say at schools at least is to have more school security. Making sure to have school resource officers at every single school, perhaps even an armed guard could be beneficial. And while some could argue that this would be abnormal in some way, having armed guards at schools, and kids shouldn't have to go to a school where they need an armed guard, it's also really not all that normal to have them go through these active shooter drills at the schools either. So if we're going to be choosing between active shooter drills or having a school resource officer or even an armed guard, we might as well choose the one that's actually going to be effective. Furthermore, as I mentioned before, mental health is definitely a huge issue in this country. I feel like most schools don't really have nearly enough counselors to effectively be able to talk to every single student. We might have one counselor at a school, whereas we have like 800 or 900 students. And outside the school, it can be very expensive to pay for counseling, and a lot of them aren't even covered by our insurance, something that's already incredibly high. So perhaps instead of sending billions of dollars to other countries each and every year, we keep some of the money in this country and instead invest it in our mental health treatment. Or would that make too much sense? It seems like with many politicians, they don't actually want common sense solutions. Rather, they just try to throw crap at the wall and see if it sticks. But on that note, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this video. If you enjoyed the content in today's video and you would like to see more like it, make sure to hit the subscribe button and also ring the notification bell. That way you will be the first to be notified when I do release future videos. But until next time, stay informed, my friends.